question mark. As you can imagine, she forcefully rejected that offer by the president. We'll see if the tone and tenor changes this afternoon. Of course, we'll have details, but for now, back to you, John.
All right, Kevin Cork, big meeting ahead. Thanks, Kevin.
For more on all this, let's bring in Marc Thiessen, columnist for The Washington Post, Fox News contributor, and fellow at American Enterprise Institute. Marc, good morning to you. Well,
Good morning, Sandra.
We are just a couple hours away now from this briefing in the Situation Room. We're getting this sense of urgency. 8 leaders of their parties will be gathering in that room with the president. Who's got the most leverage heading into this?
Well, I think they both have leverage. First of all, it's good that Nancy Pelosi's finally made it back from Hawaii and and I hope she enjoyed her vacation. She's tan, rested, and ready to negotiate, hopefully. Look, they both have leverage. I mean, Nancy Pelosi needs Donald Trump, and Donald Trump needs Nancy Pelosi. She campaigned on an ambitious agenda in the 2018 midterms. She's got a lot of things she wants to get done, and she can't get any of that done unless she's willing to negotiate with Donald Trump on his wall. She should be very happy that she has something that Donald Trump really, really wants and only she can give him, which is funding for the wall. She should be using that leverage to get him to agree to a bunch of Democratic priorities, which I'm sure he would be willing to do. But in order to do that, she's got to put something on the table. Right now, it seems like Trump is the only adult in the room. He's the one who stayed back in Washington during the shutdown, made a reasonable compromise offer. He cut his demand in half, apparently, according to Fox News reporting, from $5 billion to $2.5 billion. And the Democrats are just demanding total humiliation and capitulation. And if that remains their position, if they're not willing to negotiate on the wall, number one, they're going to eventually own the shutdown, because right now Trump owns it. But if they don't negotiate, if he's compromising and they're not, they're going to own it. And two, they're not going to get any of their priorities passed without passing a wall.
So still, the strategy on the part of the president here is so interesting. And Politico's got this headline. It reads, quote, "Why Trump has spared Pelosi from his personal vitriol so far." Yeah. In it, Politico writes, the president genuinely respects the incoming speaker and needs her if he's going to get anything done in the next 2 years. But the government shutdown is about to test his restraint, Marc.
Yes, and so far he has been incredibly restrained. You notice he hasn't like mocked her for being in Hawaii like I just did. He's trying not to alienate her. He wants to cut a deal, and he's being very responsible in terms of trying to offer compromises, trying to meet them part of the way. And that's why I think she's right now. They think they're in the catbird seat because they've got something Trump wants. They want to humiliate him. They think he's boxed himself into this situation with the shutdown where he's going to eventually have to capitulate. If they're...
Sounds like we may have lost our connection to Marc Thiessen.
As it happens in live TV, sometimes we don't keep those connections. But, you know, as I look at that video there, John, you're reminded of the last meeting with Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and the president. The cameras rolling. And what a day that was back on December 11th. And now, fast forward to today, this group, plus others, leaders of their party in both chambers of Congress, the new Congress, will be meeting in the Situation Room this afternoon. And we are left wondering, what will get done, and will they come to a deal that will reopen the rest of the government?
Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer apparently felt they got a little sandbagged by the president there when they're on camera and they have to, you know, answer his accusations in the Oval Office. So today there will be none of that. No cameras present, maybe a couple of still
really
photos.
Interesting, by the way. Check out Marc Thiessen's piece in the Washington Post. He put a column out, the 10 best things Trump did in 2018. In it, he said the #1 best thing that the president did in 2018, appointing record number of judges, and his support for Brett Kavanaugh never wavered. So really interesting piece. Is he still there? Marc Thiessen, did we have you back? Marc,
I'm here.
good.
Can you hear me?
Okay, well, I was just talking about your piece in the Post. Glad we've got you back.
Oh, thank you.
Always fun.
Good.
But here, I was just reading off the #1 best thing, and you have 5 of them, the best things that the president has done or did in 2018.
Yeah, he's done a number of good things. I have a top 10 list in the Washington Post. I mean, some of the things that people don't realize. For example, Donald Trump secured the release of 19 people, including 16 Americans, from foreign captivity during his first 2 years in office, from North Korea, from Turkey, from Venezuela, other countries. That's twice as many in 2 years as Barack Obama got in 8 years. And of course, he pulled out of the Iran deal, and he's pushed crushing sanctions on the Iranian regime. He's done. He's also ushered in a golden age of women at the CIA. People talk about Donald Trump's war on the intelligence community. There's no war on women. He's appointed not only the first woman CIA director, but also the first woman to head the National Clandestine Service, which is the one that runs all of our covert operations. So there's this band of sisters that have been protecting our country since 9/11, and it took Donald Trump to put them in positions of leadership. So there's a lot of really good things that the president has done.
And it wasn't all good.
In the last year.
You also had a worst things the president did in 2018, which were what?
Well, I do an annual column of 10 best and 10 worst. The worst, there are things like his Twitter attacks on people, calling Stormy Daniels horse face. And I mean, these things are just drive people who want to support his policies away. And he really, one of the worst things he did was he drove away suburban voters who he needs he's going to need to win re-election. Those suburban Republican voters abandoned him in the 2018 election. And successful two-term presidents, what they tend to do is they tend to expand their base and bring in supporters, and he's contracted his base and driven away a lot of people. And then, of course, the number one worst thing that he's done is announced the withdrawals from Afghanistan and from Syria. He definitely has knocked the hell out of ISIS, but they are not defeated. They've got 30,000 fighters, $400 million in their coffers. It took just $100,000 to carry out the 9/11 attacks. So these people are still very dangerous, and we can't take our boot off of their necks.
That is a move the president continues to defend today. I know you and I had a chance to speak over the weekend about that as well. Marc
Yes.
Thiessen, Happy New Year, and great to have you here this morning. Thank you.